So today we will talk about information retrieval. On the previous two lectures, we talked about state space search algorithms and later on Bayesian inferencing, which we discussed it as a model of uncertainty modeling. Today we will talk about content processing because a lot of intelligent user interface are based on content or link prediction. So in particular, we will talk about document indexing, pre-processing of document before feeding it to a information retrieval system. And then we will introduce the vector space model. That means how we can uh, find similarity between a query and a document or among multiple documents. And then we will talk about link analysis. That means presently the World Wide Web is the biggest example of hyperlinked documents. But then we can also set up a small uh, subset of documents like CiteSeer or any set of hyperlinked documents. And we will talk about the matrix representation of hyperlinked documents. And we will talk about two important page ranking algorithm. Page ranking means by which we can order the set of hyperlinked document based on their relevance to a user query. So one is the HEATS algorithm proposed by John Kleinbach, and then the PageRank algorithm by Sergey Brin and Lawrence Page. So first, let us talk about what we mean by indexing. That means, say, we have a document. So how we can represent a document as a machine readable form. If any of you is not muted, please mute yourself. I am hearing a little bit of white noise. Anyway, so by indexing, we mean that we represent a document as a set of keywords. And when we are trying to search a document through a query, say you are searching in Google Intelligent User Interface, so then the query is also represented by the same set of keywords. And then we have some sort of mechanism by which we match these two different set of keywords, and that we term as query evaluation, and try to retrieve a set of documents which are most relevant to a given query. So what are the main problems or issues in information retrieval? The first thing is how to best index document and query. That means how to define the best set of keywords. Then the query evaluation or the retrieval process. So if you think about the big size of World Wide Web, you can find that this may not be a trivial problem, or there may not be a single way of query evaluation. So as we go along, we will look out some mathematical formulation by which we can uh, measure the similarity or dissimilarity among a set of documents or between a query and one document. And finally, of course, we can do the same thing in different way. That means we can index document and query in multiple ways. Similarly, we can evaluate a query multiple ways, and it leads to multiple information retrieval systems. Say you can look at that Google is the most popular search engine, but then there are other search engines that are also available like Microsoft Bing, and uh, long time ago it was Alta Vista, then Yahoo Search, etc. So if we have multiple information retrieval system, how we can evaluate the system as a whole, that how good is the system. And in this context, we'll learn very important terms, precision and recall, which we'll later also will use in the context of machine learning, in particular classification learning, that how we can evaluate a classification system. So the goal of document indexing is find the important meanings and create an internal representation. And the factors we consider are the semantics, that how accurately to represent meaning and cover all the contents or the exhaustiveness. And finally, of course, it has to be machine manipulated, that how easily computer can manipulate it. Now, we can represent the content at various levels. That means we can represent it at the string level. That means, say, you are looking for Indian Institute of Science. So I can exactly search queries or search documents where this string is appearing exactly. That means Indian stop sign. So based on your requirement, it may be a uh, good, you may get a good retrieval result. But then for some other queries, say for example, you are looking for to buy a laptop. So if you search with a good laptop in affordable price, something like a query like that, in that case, the exact string may not be an accurate representation of your overall search scope. So in that sense, we try to find out your intention in the form of concept. So we can search with respect to the words or with respect to a particular phrase or even with respect to a particular concept. And in this context, I should also mention that the same principle has also been taught in a very different branch of science called qualitative research. Perhaps in the later in the course, we will have a lecture on qualitative research, in which case we also apply similar techniques for analyzing unstructured and semi-structured interview with the same goal, that finding a concept or theme from a interview or from a free text. So for the time being, let us look at in further detail that what is the pros and cons of representing a query at the string level or at the concept level. So here, to get that, we will define some terms, and this will be interesting, or this try to keep it in mind, as in the later slides we will keep on using this TF symbols. So TF stands for term frequency, which, as the name suggests, that we just measure that how many times a particular term or keyword is appearing in a document. So say you are looking for a computer, so in a document I will look for that how many times the term computer has appeared in the document. Or similarly, if you are looking for Indian Institute of Science, I will look at how many times this Indian Institute of Science phrase is appearing in a document. So that is the term frequency. And complementary to term frequency, we use another parameter. It's called document frequency, which measures that you imagine that I have a finite set of documents, and I will measure that in how many documents that particular term has appeared, right? And uh, this document frequency will decide that how unique or how exhaustive is that particular term is. And in calculation, we actually use the inverse of document frequency, which is called IDF, inverse document frequency. And it uh, signify the unevenness of a term distribution in a corpus. Say, for example, when say I am searching in the SEM digital library, so there the computer is will be a very common term, because since it's association of computing machinery, we can imagine that most documents are talking about computer. But say if I am talking about deep learning, then probably it will pick up a subset of documents where the word deep learning is happening, and it is more specific than the term computer. And then if I go into further detail that deep learning for image processing or video processing, then gradually the number of retrieved documents or relevant documents will further be decreased. So the more the term is distributed evenly, the less it is specific to a document. And we calculate a weight for a particular term and for a particular document as the multiplication of the term frequency, that means the number of occurrence of the term in the document, multiplied by the inverse document frequency of the term among the full set of corpus. So here corpus means is the set of all documents that I am considering for my information. So this weight calculation is somehow important, and uh, although the term frequency we define as the just the number of terms, but sometimes it may happen when we are talking about large document or large corpus. Like say for example, you are searching in SCM digital library for say deep learning. So if I just count the number of times the deep learning is occurring, it may happen that the dissertations on deep learning that will be that will seem to you as more relevant document, because a dissertation is a very long document with 7 or 8 chapters, or um, around 15 to 20,000 words. So it's more likely that the term deep learning will happen more number of times in a dissertation, and thus you will miss out more relevant, say, conference papers, which are shorter documents. So sometimes we take a logarithm. So logarithm works like a smoothing function, that if value is very big, it smooth it out. And similarly, we sometimes normalizing is by dividing the maximum frequency. And also there are other technology of normalization, or other mathematical function like cosine normalization we can normalize, so that the value remains within a limit. And similarly for IDFT also, we take the log function which limits very big values. And sometimes, as I told, that based on the length of document, we can do additional normalization based on the document length, so that all documents, irrespective of what their length, they got equal chance to be read. Now, before we do all these term frequency, document frequency, we have to disregard a set of words which are most common for English language, and I'm sure in many other languages also, like prepositions, articles, pronouns, some adverbs, and adjectives. So, information retrieval system first remove these words, and these words are called as stop words. And generally, a few standard stop lists they are already freely available. So we use that and remove those words both from our query as well as from the document. And then we do something called stemming. So remember, on the second or third slide, we are talking about a string level search and a concept level search. So when you are searching for computer, I imagine that you are also looking for interested in something on computation or computing. So all these word computer, computes are same to a single word called compute. So it removes all these suffix and try to catch your concept, or your intentional search item. And it may not be the correct representation. So in that case, if you want the exact phrase, you can put it inside a code for search engine. But generally, search engine remove these suffixes to try to increase the precision of your search. So this is one interesting algorithm, or Porter's algorithm, which has a set of typical rules by which you can stem English word. And as you can see, the pretty self-explanatory, that if a word ends with SS, yes, we convert it to SS. If there is a verb and ing, then we remove the ing. And if there is ASNL, we name it the 8, and so on. But one drawback of this algorithm is that it requires the parts of speech of all words. And when we do a information retrieval system, parts of speech tagging, or short called POS tagging, is a uh, difficult task on its own, right? So now for English, there are some automatic parts of speech tagging system are available. But if you think about a non-English language like any of Indian language, then developing a parts of speech tagging system is a big uh, challenge on its own, right? That you will see the corpus in the parts of speech. But you can see that in this algorithm, the millisecond step requires the parts of speech of the uh, word, that whether it's a verb or. So after it, we talk about the transfer standard of syntactic category, also and it is more accurate than but that often like in the case of computer, and computer is a specific noun, but computer doesn't this is the same concept. So if we know the part of speech tagging, then we can also do this. And here you can also operation and we can also get or supervise character hyperparameter. We have that speed of all that we do similar with the reduced precision, but it will make sure what we do by that even though you are starting a computer, but that the word computer that we are talking about a calculator, that will also be but it will increase the response, but that all of where the that I have all documents, but at the cost of this actually.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sir, your voice is breaking.
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah. Now.
Okay, so thank you. Yeah, so if we do severe stemming, we will make sure that all documents where even the part of my search query is appearing, those will be retrieved. But then I have to search for the exact term myself, so it will reduce precision. On the other hand, if I do no stemming, say for example, I put Indian Institute of Science in double quote, so it will make sure that all the documents, whatever will be retrieved in those documents, the term Indian Institute of Science exactly as it is will appear. But then we can miss out documents where the term IISC is appearing. So similarly, if we are looking for computer, say if I put computer in double quotes, I will only get documents in which the term is appearing as computer, and I will not get document even where the term is appearing as computers. So I may miss some relevant documents. So the recall will be less, but the precision will be higher because I will get documents where the term is appearing exactly. And it is important that we understand the difference between precision and recall, because later on when again I will refer to the classification example that in classification also here we are talking about whether a document is relevant or not. In case of classification, we will talk about that whether a particular data has been categorized in the uh, actual its proper class or not. So there we will not talk about relevance, but the concept will remain same. So the result of indexing will be, so again we will take a step back. That means that, say for example, imagine that we have lemmatization or stemming, we remove the stop word, and then we will represent a set of documents as a set of tuples where the T1 designate a term. So here say compute, and the W1 is the weight. The weight is calculated as multiplication of term frequency and inverse document frequency. So all documents will be represented like that in our corpus. And sometimes we can also keep an inverted file for each term. And this has only one utility, that so that it can increase the efficiency of the information retrieval system the way it is implemented. Now we'll come to the second question. So far we talked about two concepts. One is that how we represent documents or query in a machine readable form or the indexing, and then the pre-processing stage. That pre-processing means that removing stop words and this lemmatization, stop words, etc. Now I have a set of documents and my query in the machine readable form. So how I can do the matchmaking, that how we will actually retrieve the set of relevant documents. So for that, we will use a concept called vector space model. And it is easier to visualize that if we think about only two terms, like as if we are looking for only two terms because we can visualize things easily in dimension. So in the vector space model, we will imagine a coordinate space or vector space where the axes are represented by all possible terms. So as I told, just imagine that I have only two terms, then we will have two axes. If I have three terms, then we will have three axes. And then if we have n terms, then we will have n axes, and which will not be possible for us to visualize, but it can be represented in a machine. And then each document will be represented by a vector within this coordinate space defined by these terms, where the document length will be determined by the weight of the term inside the document. And same thing we will do it for queries, where the weight, which is the multiplication of term frequency and inverse document frequency, will dictate the length of the vector. So this is the matrix representation that on the x-axis I am plotting all the terms T1, T2, T3, etc. Y-axis we are putting all the documents in the document space D1, D2, D3, and A11 is the score of document D1. So remember the term frequency of T1 inside D1 and the inverse document frequency of T1, the multiple those two, and so on. And our query is also represented by that. And this is the way we can visualize. So for the time being, look at the, imagine that I have only two terms. So you can look at the right side image where my coordinate space is defined by only two terms, T1 and T2. So T is one vector. The length will be determined by the weight of T1 and T2 inside T. And Q will be another vector where the again length of Q will be determined by the term frequency and inverse document frequency. And once we have two vectors, then we will have multiple functions to find the similarity of the query with the documents. Like the dot product is the simplest one, but then we can do cosine transform, dice, Sacred function, and so. So finally, from the vector space model, we can find that uh, how much a query is similar to a document, or how many documents are similar to each other. All this we can find by this vector processing, and uh, thus we will have a working information retrieval system. But once we have a working information retrieval system, the next question will be that how good is the system? So that we evaluate again using the same terms, precision and recall. So here you imagine it like that I have a big corpus, and but it's a finite set, and among this corpus there are certain documents which are relevant to my queries, but I do not know them that which are relevant. So I am using an information retrieval system or a search engine, and it is retrieving a set of documents which it thinks are relevant to my query, but that may not be true. That's why the retrieved and relevant subset that you can see here, they are not overlapping to each other. So the retrieved set is what is returned by the search engine. Relevant is the set of documents which are actually relevant to my search query, but I do not. And their common search set is the only the documents that are of useful are useful to me, because these are the retrieved relevant documents. So precision is defined as the retrieved relevant documents divided by the total number of retrieved documents, and recall is defined as the retrieved relevant documents, that is intersection in this Venn diagram, divided by the total number of relevant documents. And they are, as we saw in the stemming or lemmatization slide, that all parameter tuning has a result of a trade-off between that either it increases precision or reduces precision, or increases recall and reduce recall. So to evaluate system, we use a set of parameters. One such parameter is the F1 score, combines the precision and recall into a single formula, and this F1 is known as the accuracy of the system. So this is one quick example, that imagine that I have only 5 relevant documents, and my search engine has retrieve these 5 documents. The first document is relevant, yes. The second document is not relevant to my query. Third document is again relevant. Fourth document is also relevant. Fifth relevant. So uh, we can plot the precision and recall in this diagram where the y-axis is precision, etc. So after I retrieve the first document, I have retrieved only one document, and we know there are 5 relevant documents. So our recall score will be 1 divided by 5, 0. And you can see it here. And the precision will be, I retrieved only one document, and that is relevant. The precision will be also 1 divided by 1 equal to 1. So this, so after I retrieve the second document, my recall will remain same because we retrieved only one relevant document out of 5. So the recall is 1 by 5. But precision reduced 0.5 because I retrieved two documents, a maximum of 1. After I retrieve the third document, recall is 2 by 5 because there are 5 relevant documents. I 2 by 5 0.6, and precision is 1 by because I retrieved, sorry, 2 by 3 because I retrieved 3 documents and 2 are relevant. And similarly, after the fourth document, the recall is 3 by 5 or 0.3 because I have 5 relevant documents, and precision is 3 by 2 because there are 4 documents retrieved and 3 are relevant, so 3 by 2 and so. So it's important that you please, go through these calculation once more after the lecture and make sure that you understand the recall calculation well. Because, as I was saying, the similar concept is also evaluate accuracy of classification. So the assumption or goal of a competition festival is goal is activity, but that is challenging. That's why we call parameter thinking and try to increase the F1 score or accuracy, which is uh, a function which combines both precision and the information is remain static and the value is in the resulting document set that say for example why I use a particular search engine because I got all my relevant documents in the search engine. So there was a famous joke saying that how you can hide one document. That answer is that you just make it appear on the second search page of a Google search query. Because most of us got to the second search page of Google already come much accustomed that we got all our relevant information on the first search page or the first 10 results of a Google search result. So after content analysis, so content analysis, of course, it went on, but then what happened that although from that World Wide Web was or invented in 1991, but from 2000 onwards, Web 2, where anyone can add content to the World Wide Web, size of World Wide Web becomes bigger, and uh, then becomes also important not that only the content but also the uh, hyperlinks I'm talking. For example, say I, for example, myself, I can post a document where the word Indian sometimes appears multiple times, or there may be a this article where on Indian there are pages. But when you are looking for Indian of science, probably you will first want to look at the homepage of Indian of science, which is linked to multiple documents. So this is the most this is the reason of learning that surface 10 to 20 pages.
Sir, your voice is breaking. I don't know if it's just for me.
Okay, I will again. Is it better now?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So the ordering of pages is important to compose an effective and efficient search result, just as we talked about in the last slide on content analysis. The main problems are the huge size of web, and even the size is always growing, and exponential increase in size, and unstructured nature of web pages. So when we are developing, say, a digital library or searching within a digital library, we can make several assumptions about structure of documents, because when we write papers or thesis, we follow a specific structure. And in World Wide Web, there is no control on content. So this complicates developing such system. So the first link analysis algorithm is the HITS algorithm, or hypertext induced topic search. And John Greenberg got the Field Medal, which is kind of Nobel equivalent in mathematics, for this HITS algorithm. So for link analysis, we define two types of pages. One is called authorities pages and then hubs pages. So authorities are pages, like the name indicates, that who are authority. That means many other pages are directing towards that pages, that or many pages are citing that particular page. So for example, if you think about very popular, say, like for example, the IISc homepage, that may be a good example, that many other web pages, say our individual faculty websites or laboratory websites, all will be citing to the main homepage of IISc. On the other hand, there are something like index pages or hubs, which are uh, which has outgoing links to many pages. Say, for example, the Google News page, which is an indexing page for various news items, and it points you to various news items. And similarly, you can think about also a homepage of a news page, say the Deccan Herald homepage, which will lead you to multiple news items, both within the website or outside the website. So when we will try to find relevant documents, we look at this authority and hub nature of pages, because if a page is not linked with any other pages, it may be that maybe the reason that the page is not very important. It also may be important page, but we should take into consideration the hyperlink structure among various pages. So the first algorithm, it is kind of mathematical in nature, that the HITS algorithm. So it calculates the authority and hub score for all pages. That means how many pages they are pointing to a certain page, and how many page this particular page is pointing to. And then it normalize these calculations, and then it kind of iterate it multiple times. And there are mathematical formulation which shows that it finally converts to a set of values based on the link structure of the document, link structure of all documents. Okay, so algorithm converges to a fixed point if iterated indefinitely, and define A to be a adjacency matrix of the subgraph defined by A. So we will, in the next slide, we will look at this adjacency matrix. And again, these are mathematically, it has been found that the authority score converge to the eigenvector of A transpose A, where A is the adjacency matrix, and similarly the hub vector also converges. And in practice, after 20 iterations, produces fairly stable results. That means after all this mathematical calculation, we know that how good a page as an authority and how good as a page as a hub or index page, and then we can retrieve or tune our search results based on that. That I will return you pages which has high authority score or a high hub score and so on. But the drawback side is pure link-based computation, and another is topic drifting appear when hub discusses multiple topics. That means you can imagine yourself that you are in a junction with many roads going out of it, and it may happen that you have, if the junction has many outlets, you have more probability that you will choose a wrong path instead of the correct path. So when you are in the straight road, there is no probability that you will go to a wrong road. But when you are in a junction with, say, 4 roads coming out, there is 3/4 chance that you will take one of the wrong way. And if you are in a junction with, say, 7 or 8 outlets, Similarly, your probability of choosing the wrong path increases. Similarly, here, that if a page has pointing to multiple pages, like a um, index page, it may happen that it will take to you a different subset of pages which were not your original intention of searching. So this is called topic drifting. So again, you can imagine like you are looking at the news page for a particular political content, then you got attracted by a sports news, and then you are kept on following the sports pages and forgot your original query, something like that. So the PageRank was published in International World Wide Web Consortium Conference in 1998, and that time Sergey Brin and Lawrence Page were students at uh, Stanford University Computer Science Department. It may be worthy to note that on the same year, Andrew Ng also submitted his master's thesis at the same department, although much later on he contributed to Google Brain Walk. But PageRank algorithm immediately made a breakthrough and started Google. So what is the specialty about this PageRank algorithm? So alternative link analysis uh, method, it doesn't attempt to capture the distinction between hubs and authorities. Simpler, ranks pages just by authority and apply to the entire web rather than a local neighborhood of pages. That we will understand what does it mean by the fourth points in the next slide maybe. So PageRank is built upon an idea of a random surfer model. A random surfer model means in the HITS algorithm, what we are doing, that we are, say we are landing on a particular page, then we are following its link, going to another page, then we are following the links as if you think you yourself as a spider, so you are as if crawling through the different links of your web. But in PageRank algorithm, there is a probability of a random jump. That means as if you are jumping from your web to the neighboring spider's web. Why? Because remember earlier we are telling that if a page has no links, then it will not be retrieved. It may also happen that there are two disjoint subset of pages, and if you are in a single subset and following only the link structure within this subset, you may not access the another disjoint subset. So to get rid of that problem, it introduces this random surfer model, that you are searching in your neighborhood and suddenly there is a certain probability that you will jump out of your neighborhood and go to a new neighborhood and keep on searching at that point. So this is how the PageRank algorithm works. So when we are at a node with no outlinks, that it's a say standalone page, the surfer invokes the teleport or jump operation. So the particular book of Manning, which I am following, that use this term teleport. So after today's lecture with the video recording, I will also share a web link to the Manning's book, and I suggest you please go through the relevant chapters of this book. So at any node that has outgoing links, the surfer invokes the teleport operation with a certain probability between 0 and 1, and we are using alpha to designate the probability of teleport. Otherwise, users do the very similar wave crawling like the HITS algorithm. That means with 1 minus alpha probability, it crawls through the neighborhood of pages. That means follow the outlink. So let us look at how it works. That if we represent a set of pages as an adjacency matrix, so the adjacency matrix is a common word in the graph theory. That remember that earlier we looked at different types of graphs when we talk about state space search algorithms or this Bayesian network. So similar thing, that I will have rows and columns for each page, and I will put a 1 if one page is hyperlinked to another page, and if a page is not hyperlinked to another page, we will put a 0. So better we will look at this algorithm with an example next. So here, say I have only 3 web pages and this is their link structure, and the probability of teleportation operation is alpha equal to 0.5, right? So if we now look at the previous slide, that if a row of adjacency matrix has no ones, then replace each element by 1 by n. Why? Because here bgain is the total number of web pages in my corpus. For all other rows, proceed as follows. Divide each one in the adjacency matrix by the number of ones in its row. So in this particular graph or set of web pages, we do not have a disjoint nodes. So we start from the second step. So what is the second step? The second step is saying divide each one in adjacency matrix by the number of ones in its row. What does it mean actually? So remember, one means that there is a hyperlink going out of this page. So from each page, I have uniform probability or I have equal probability to reach any other pages. That's why I am adding the values of all ones and dividing all ones by the same value. So in this top row, I have only one. So it's remain as it is. On the second row, there were two ones because from node 2, I can go to either node 1 or node 3. And I am imagining I have equal probability to go to node 1 or node 3. So I am dividing 1 by 2, which is 0.5. From node 3, I can only go to node 2. So I am keeping the 1 as it is. Then I will multiply each row by 1 minus alpha. So remember that alpha is the probability of teleport operation, or I am jumping out of the neighborhood and going to another neighborhood. So in this particular case, I imagine the probability of alpha as 0.5. So I'm multiplying all values by 0.5. And then finally, we will add alpha by n to each element. N is the total number of pages. So I have 0.5 probability to randomly jump to any other pages within the web space. So it makes sure or it adds a probability value even to a page which has no outlinks or inlinks, so that if we follow the hits algorithm, then we cannot go to a page which is not hyperlinked to any other page, but using PageRank algorithm, there is a finite probability that even I can reach to a uh, page without any hyperlink. So here alpha is 0.5, so we are adding alpha by 0.5 by 3 to all the entries into the matrix. So now we got a matrix values. Next, what we will do, that surfer starts at any page and browse through the links with teleportation. After a large number of iteration of surfing, or which means the probability of visiting each page, it settles down. What does it mean by settles down? That means the values converge. And interestingly, it has been mathematically found that it doesn't really depend that on which page you started this surfing. Independent of whatever page you start surfing from, the values converge to a same value, which is the left eigenvector of the initial probability matrix. So this matrix is known as probability matrix, while the first matrix with 1 and 0, it is known as the adjacency matrix. So if we simulate multiple surfing operation with the probability matrix, after a certain number or large number of iteration, the scores, they settles or converges to the principal left eigenvector. And the speed of convergence, so early experiments on Google used 322 million links, and within it converged within 52 iterations, which is very good. And in terms of time and space complexity, remember on the first lecture we were talking about time and space complexity of state space search algorithm. It is the log n, which is good, and n is the number of links, and the calculation is found to be quite efficient. And this is the comparison between hits and PageRank algorithm, that uh, hits assembles different root set and prioritizes page in the context of query, looks forward and backward direction, while PageRank only look in the forward direction and assigns initial ranking and retains them independently from queries. So, and turns out to be faster. And it also incorporated this teleportation operation, which was not there in the hits algorithm. So these are today's basic takeaway points, that we talked about data pre-processing, the concept of term frequency and inverse document frequency. And we looked at introduced the vector space model and the very important concepts of precision and recall. And then we looked at the link analysis, and we discussed about the two most famous algorithm, the hits and the PageRank, or the first two popular algorithms, and after that there are many other web search or page ranking algorithm has been proposed. And we also show a demonstration of calculating page rank from adjacency matrix, and the example is taken again from the textbook on information retrieval by Mannix. And with the slide, I hope it will be easier for you to follow the book also. So with that, we will stop the lecture today.